ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق.
الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وآله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم كان الناس أمة واحدة فبعث الله النبيين مبشرين ومنذرين وأنزل معهم الكتاب بالحق ليحكم بين الناس فيما اختلفوا فيه وما اختلف فيه إلا الذين أوتوه من بعد ما جاءتهم البينات بغيا بينهم فهدى الله الذين آمنوا لما اختلفوا فيه من الحق بإذنه والله يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that which can mean the people in the past during the time between Adam and Nuh, the people during the time between Adam and Nuh, they were one ummah, united upon Tawheed, united upon that which was correct. They were one people. And then, due to people seeking after the dunya, due to people's envy and argumentation between each other, they started to divide. So Allah sent فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ نَبِيِّينَ مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ. So when this division started to happen, Allah began to send prophets to warn the people and prophets to give the people glad tidings for those who would stick to the truth. So the people became into groups. Some of them believed and some of them disbelieved. With the first messenger coming to be Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam. وَأَنزَلَ مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابِ, and Allah sent down amongst them al-kitab. And kitab here, it means kutub, it means books. It doesn't mean just one book. Allah sent down amongst them books. بِالْحَقِّ لِيَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, books that came down in the truth so that they may judge between the people. فِيمَا اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ, in that which they differed in regards to. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ فِيهِ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوهُ مِنْ بَعْدِ, and they didn't differ in it except those who were given the books from after it came to them of the true signs or the clear proofs, بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ, out of hatred and animosity amongst themselves. And this is something that even to this day takes place. That the people most of the time don't have a true aversion or hatred for the truth, but they have a hatred for each other. Many times something can be true and absolutely true and everyone knows it to be true, but because you told me, I don't want to accept it. Right? Because that person told me, I don't want to accept it. So this is a problem that happens between people and their negation of other people. Their hatred and animosity for each other causes people to fight and argue, even though they know what the person is saying is true. I know what he's saying is true, but I just can't take that because I don't want him or her to dominate me. I don't want him or her to be the one that brought the truth to me. فَهَدَى اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَا اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الْحَقِّ بِإِذْنِهِ. But Allah has guided, Allah will guide those who believe to the truth in regards of what they differed if they differed in from the truth by the permission of Allah. وَاللَّهُ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And Allah will guide whoever He wishes to the straight path. And it mentions that Allah will guide whoever He wishes to the truth. And the truth is that which will lead to Jannah eventually. And that's something we have to remember. That our goal in this dunya is to seek the truth, regardless who it comes from or how it comes. And this is an issue that happens today with some of the people. The Muslim, barakallahu feekum, as the Prophet said, al-hikmah dalatul mu'min. That hikmah, wisdom, is the lost item of the believer. Wherever they find it, they take it. So we're not the type of people who are too big or too prideful to take the truth, even if it be from the youngest ones from amongst us. Or it might be from an enemy even. As Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned that I never debated anyone except that I was seeking the truth. I was hoping that the truth will be either made manifest on his tongue or my tongue, but I'm looking for the truth. And that's all that I'm seeking for. Not that I'm debating so I can be said, look how smart I am, or how wise he is, or how much knowledge he has. Our job is to seek the truth in opposition to those who are seeking after the dunya. Allah, he says then, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَلَمَّا يَأْتِكُمْ مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِن قَبْلِكُمْ. Do you believe, or do you think, is it in your mind, that you're going to enter into Jannah when it has not yet come to you the likes of that which came to those who passed on before you? Meaning of the tests and hardships. Those prophets and messengers who came before, they had some difficult situations. And this ayah was said to be revealed during the battle of Al-Ahzab. And the battle of Ahzab was a very rough battle for the believers. It was when the mushrikeen and the different groups, as the name suggests, Ahzab, the different groups came and surrounded, actually came and brought the battle to Medina. Most of the previous battles leading up to this, the Muslims met the kuffar outside of Medina, and they met them before they reached to Medina. But this time the kuffar actually gathered and they reached to the borders of Medina. Now a battle right outside of your doorsteps is different than a battle on a different field. Because now you know that if we lose for certain, they're going to take our families, they're going to kill our children, and so on and so forth. So the believers were what they called, what's this thing called when you like circled around?
Surrounded.
No, not surrounded, it's another word. Huh? Either way, we'll think about it. When an army has you circled and you can't get out. Besieged. A siege. Ah, yes. The believers were besieged. That was you? Who came up with that? MashaAllah, Zubair. Barakallahu feek. They were besieged now. They were besieged and they couldn't go out anywhere. So they were stuck inside of Medina for the most part. And they so much so that when they were working, they came up with the idea to dig a trench so that the kuffar could not just attack them all with their army. But in this process of digging a trench, they were starving. They had no food. It was cold nights, right? Digging and working, plus with the fear the enemy were throwing arrows at them still. So this is a rough deal, right? So even so much so that the companions, they was tying stones to their stomach. And then one companion, they were complaining of the hunger that they were having. And he lifted his shirt and showed the Prophet ﷺ, look how hungry I am. I have one stone tied to my stomach. The Prophet ﷺ lifted his shirt and showed, listen, I got two. So the Prophet wasn't like, sitting back. He was in the mix, picking up stones, breaking stones, and working just like everyone else. So the Prophet said, Allah Ta'ala said, do you think that you're going to enter into Jannah because you have the belief now, you have Iman, you say that you're a Muslim, and the things that happen to the people who came before you are not going to happen to you? Severe poverty came to them. They were poor. Just because you believe doesn't mean that you're going to become rich and there's going to be gardens underneath you in this dunya. And they had sicknesses with darra. They became sick. They had diseases that would come to them. وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. So much so that, and they were shaking, زُلْزِلُوا, like an earthquake, right? A severe shake with so many different types of trials and adversities came to them. It was like they were being shooken like an earthquake. Person, oh man, I can't, they're in qalaq, they just can't get right. So much was happening to them. And it was so difficult that the messenger and those who were with him were saying, when is the help of Allah going to come? And this doesn't negate, subhanAllah. It's not like sometimes a person falls into despair and they think that the help of Allah is not coming. They knew it was going to come. They believed. They just were trying to find, how soon is it going to come? We need it to come now. This wasn't a statement of kufr like, oh, the help of Allah left us. No, it wasn't that statement. Because to have this, nobody has this type of despair of the help of Allah except for the kafirs. Right? That Allah's help is not going to come. وَمَن يَقْنُتُ مِن رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Right? No one despairs of the mercy of Allah coming for them except for the one who disbelieves. So we have to remember that whenever we're going through a difficulty, especially if we're being tried in our deen or tried because of our deen by the kuffar or anything that happens around us, we know that the help of Allah is going to come. It's going to come for sure. When it's going to come, Allah knows best, but it's going to come. So Allah has told the believers like this, and there's a sign and an indication here from the first few ayat, we learn that if we say we believe, then part of us believing and part of us choosing the akhirah over the dunya is that Allah is going to shake us up and try us due to that. We have to show and prove that we're able to bear the weight of carrying this deen. Allah is going to make sure of that, because the same way He did with the people who came before us. They would try to make sure that they can hold the weight of the trials and tribulations that Allah will bring to them. We're not exempted from that. And we should prepare ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually to be able to bear the weight of the trials and tests if and when they come. We shouldn't run as soon as a trial comes in our deen and say, I gotta get away. They're trying me in my deen. It's becoming difficult to be a Muslim. MashaAllah, no problem. That's what Allah promised us to happen. Allah promised that those who believe are going to be tried in accordance to their Islam. The young to the old. Don't say, I'm too young to get tried. I don't want this yet. If the Iman is in your heart, look at the people of Ashab al-Kahf. Right? They were young people. Sah? And not only were they young people who weren't used to a rough life. And they went to a cave. They were young people that were used to a rich life. They were children of the people who had money, right? In the area, in the city. But they were tried in their deen. They didn't give up on their deen. They got away from where they had to get away from, but they didn't give up on their deen. And we have to be the same way. We don't change or compromise our deen because the test comes. We adapt and we handle it, regardless how difficult it is. I can't come to America and decide that now I'm going to shave my beard. It's reality, right? Or I can't come to America and say, I can't find a job, so now I'm going to go and, change my name from Abdul Aziz to now I'm just Abe. No, it's not right. Seriously. If we can't put up with a little bit of difficulty for the sake of Allah, what do we really believe in? A person says, well, I'm looking for a job and I can't find a job, so the only job I can find, they won't let me get Jumu'ah off. I'm not working that job. There's going to be another one. Well, I don't have no money. There's going to be another. It's going to come. But I'm not going to compromise and drop my deen for the sake of the dunya. This is what caused the people who came before us to differ with each other. Was that they were seeking and chasing after the dunya, and when they did that, it caused them to divide, and the division broke up the deen so much so that after this, the whole world was wiped away clean when they didn't believe in Nuh. Then Allah Ta'ala continues, He says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ. They ask you, what should they spend? This ayah was revealed in regards to an older man from amongst the Arabs who had a lot of money. We say, where should I spend some of this money at? Or as well as it comes that some of the believers, they used to ask, where should they do with their money? Where should they spend it? Who should they spend it on? We learn a good point here. Allah Ta'ala says, قُلْ مَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. Allah says, whatever you spend from amongst that which is good, meaning the wealth, then it should be for what? For your parents. You should spend on your parents. This is one of the obligations that the people have. You have to spend on your parents. Do you understand that? People think sometimes, Allah will ask me for my money. I remember, subhanAllah, when I was young, I had a job. I worked full time, literally. My mother tell you, full time. I worked maybe 50 hours a week. I was maybe 13, 14. Guess what happened with my paycheck? I don't even know what it looked like. I gave it to my parent. That was the last time I saw it. I didn't get new sneakers from it. I didn't get a PlayStation 15 from it. Why? This is responsibility. And it builds character in you as a man, right? That the child, subhanAllah, is supposed to spend on their parents. Especially if the parents don't have the wealth to take care of it, or they become old and they don't have the money. That's your obligation to take care of it. In Islam, it's unheard of. A nursing home? What is a nursing home to a Muslim? The home that you take care of your parents in, not somewhere that you send them off when they get old and you don't want to deal with them anymore. And you come and visit them once a week or twice a week or whatever it might be. It's an obligation on the children. Obligation, not like a voluntary thing. An obligation for the children to spend on their parents. So much so that if the father comes, right, and he sees that you have, let's say you have $50 laying on the bed. He says, oh, okay, mashallah. He takes it. He says, oh, haram alayk, abi. What do you mean, haram alayk? I took it. You can't take it's mine. You know what the children say today? That's mine. You can't do that. One man, it was like this during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. One young boy. The Prophet, one man took some wealth from his son. So the man, he came and he said, I'm going to take you to the Prophet. You can't do that to me. So they went to the Prophet ﷺ and told him, Ya Rasulullah, he took some of my wealth. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you and whatever you own belongs to your father. You, remember this, you and whatever you own belongs to your father. So he comes, right, takes it, that's his, just like you're his. And we have to have this understanding that spending on your parents is an obligation. And then Allah, he continues and he goes, wal aqrabeen, and your close relatives, spend on them, your close relatives. That's one of the reasons that relatives and qaraba is there for, that we know that if you need $10, who are you going to ask first? Your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt. That's one of the benefits of relatives. So much so that we know that if you do something wrong, hurt someone or there's some qisas, who's going to pay for it? It's not just you. Your close relatives, right? So we have to pay attention to that. And that's one of the things that also we pay attention to, that when we act in a way that's going to be befitting our relatives, because it's not just you. Allah didn't create us to be lone individuals where it's just me, whatever I'm going to do, no, it's just my life. No, it's not your life. Because I bet if something happens to you, you're going to be calling, oh boy, I'm in trouble. Then it's not your life anymore. It's now you need help, right? So remember that before it happens. Remember that before it happens, that you're not a single human being. وَالْيَتَامَى, spend on the orphan, the one who has no father, وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, وَمِنَ السَّبِيلِ, the one who's stuck while traveling, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ, and whatever you do from good, then Allah knows about it. For sure, Allah knows about it. Nothing that we do goes to waste. Pay attention to that. Then Allah says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْقِتَالِ وَهُوَ كُرْهٌ لَكُمْ. Fighting has been obligated upon you, even though you might not like it. Of course, people don't like fighting sometimes, right? Fighting is not easy. Real fighting is not easy. Especially imagine the fighting that used to happen during the time of the Prophet. Swords, hands getting cut off, and body parts. You know, subhanAllah, it's not easy. But Allah says it's been obligated, even though you might not like it. Why? Because there's some benefit in it, of course. If you don't fight, guess what happens? You become subjugated. You become humiliated. They might take your money and your wealth anyway if you just submit. So Allah is obligated that people fight when the time is correct, right? Under the proper leadership, under the command of the Muslim army, not just any renegade, jump up, we're going to fight. No, it's orders, nizam, right? We have to be clear about that. That Muslims are not cowboys, right? That everybody just, I have a weapon, I'm going to go use it and go. No, subhanAllah. There's order to everything that we do as Muslims. So Allah says, and the proof of it is how the ayats come. The Muslims were in Mecca for how long? 13 years. And they were not allowed to fight. Allah wanted them to work on themselves first. Get your iman correct. But regardless how tough you think you are, if your iman is not prepared for it, you're not going to retain victory. You're not going to attain victory. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْقِتَالُ وَهُوَ كُرْهٌ لَكُمْ. Fighting has been prescribed for you, even though you might dislike it. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And perhaps you might hate something, but it's better for you. It's good for you. This reality happens sometimes with us. You might not like a thing, but that thing is what's best for you. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. And perhaps you might not like a thing, and that thing is what's best for you. Perhaps you might like a thing, and it's really evil or bad for you. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah knows best, and you don't know. And that's something that we have to remember for ourselves. That Allah knows best what's best for us. Even though we think we know it all. Oh, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. If Allah put it in His Sharia, if Allah legislated it and said it's good to do, then it means it's good to do. If Allah says it's good, Allah knows better than we do. We have to always remind ourselves about that. Don't worry, you don't gotta look at the clock. 27th night, we might go all night, man. Don't worry. Then Allah says, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah, He says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ قِتَالٍ فِيهِ. They ask you about the holy months, or the sacred months, in regards to fighting within the sacred months. This happened because before the Battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ sent out a small military detachment, right? And this military detachment was on the road and they killed a mushrik, right? They fought mushrik and they killed him. So the mushrikeen, they didn't know if this was actually Rajab or if it was Jama'at al-Ukhra. They didn't know, Jama'at al-Thani. They didn't know which one it was. It's not like they had calendars then. So they were trying to say it was Rajab. You know the mushrikeen, they always want to try to blame. Oh, it was Rajab. No, we know you guys killed somebody in Rajab. That's a sacred month. Why did you do that? What's wrong with you Muslims? Right? So Allah sends this ayah down. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ قِتَالٍ فِيهِ, because the Muslims were worried. And oh man, did we kill somebody in Rajab? Is this gonna be a sin against us in front of Allah? So Allah brings this ayah. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ قِتَالٍ فِيهِ. They ask you about fighting in the sacred months. قُلْ قِتَالٌ فِيهِ كَبِيرٌ. Say, fighting in them is a big sin. Look how Allah responds to this. Pay attention closely. Because the kuffar always try to use these type of attacks. Right? Allah says, قُلْ قِتَالٌ فِيهِ كَبِيرٌ. Yes, fighting in those months are bad. Don't do it. It's not a good thing. وَصَدٌّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَكُفْرٌ بِهِ وَالْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَإِخْرَاجُ أَهْلِهِ مِنْهُ أَكْبَرُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. But Allah says, but blocking the people off, right, from the path of Allah and Masjid al-Haram and making it into Masjid al-Haram, right, not being able to pray in the masjid and disbelieving and expelling people from the sacred area, those are greater sins in the sight of Allah. You guys talking about this right here, okay, cool, we accept that. But what about all of these evils that you're doing? We're not supposed to defend ourselves from that? Well, fitna to akbaru min al-qatl. And Allah says fitna means shirk. Fitna is greater of a sin than killing. Okay, yes, one of you got killed. But the shirk that you're committing is a worse sin than that. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ, pay attention. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ حَتَّى يَرُدُّوكُمْ عَنْ دِينِكُمْ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعُوا. This is a plan. That's what Allah is telling us something about the kuffar. They will never stop fighting you. And Allah used this in the mudari'. Allah uses this in the present tense, future tense, meaning this is something that's going to keep happening until our time and after. This is a reminder for you. They will never stop fighting you. You. They'll never stop fighting each and every one of you until when? Until you say Assalamu alaikum to them? Until you move into America and get citizenship? Until what? You marry a Kafir girl? Until when? No, they don't care if you die. They'll still try to dig up your grave and fight you maybe. Until you turn back away from your deen. That's the only time they'll stop fighting you. Regardless if they hide their fighting or not. Regardless if they change the way they're fighting you, they'll never stop fighting you. Until you do what? حَتَّى يَرُدُّوكُمْ عَنْ دِينِكُمْ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعُوا. Until you give up on your deen, you turn back on Islam. That's the only time, if they're able to do such, right? If they're able to get you to turn back on Islam, that's the only time they'll give up their war against the Muslims. You don't have to worry about it. Allah speaks the truth. They're not going to stop. So that means, should you become weak? Say, oh, maybe I should just become one of them. But it goes back to what we said earlier, right? أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ. Right? Do you think you're going to enter into Jannah? If you're not going to experience some hardships, you're not going to bear the weight of this difficulty of having this deen, because again, we're not seeking the dunya. We might go through some hardships in the dunya. As some of the Allaamah of the past, they said, whoever experiences fright will not have fright twice. If you experience hardship and difficulty in the dunya, you won't experience it in the akhirah. But if your dunya is just good, relaxation, party time, then your akhirah, you're going to have some problems. So you got to choose when you're going to get it. Take one of your medicines. Take it bitter now to get it sweet later. So Allah again says, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ حَتَّى يَرُدُّوكُمْ عَنْ دِينِكُمْ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعُوا وَمَنْ يَرْتَدِدْ مِنْكُمْ عَنْ دِينِهِ فَيَمُتْ وَهُوَ كَافِرٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And whoever decides to turn back and become a kafir, right? وَمَنْ يَرْتَدِدْ مِنْكُمْ عَنْ دِينِهِ, and he turns back off his deen and he dies, أُولَٰئِكَ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ وَهُوَ كَافِرٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And this person becomes a kafir, then all of his deeds that he might have done, you might have made hajj, you might have given millions of dollars in sadaqah, but if you weaken up even one time and become a kafir and die like that, everything that you did before is gone. Imagine that, subhanAllah. Who can afford to lose all of the salawat that they've prayed, the Ramadans they fasted, the Quran they've read and memorized, and then one day die and become a kafir and die like that? All of that is wiped out. None of it matters anymore. So we have to stay strong. We have to remain vigilant to their plots and their attacks. Because they don't fight. One thing you learn about the kuffar, they don't attack when you're strong. They try to weaken you first. They try to come at you through the back door. Let's first get them to think like us. Let's first get them to become a coward. Right? To become weak. To lose their iman. To not want to come to the masjid. To want to play with the kuffar, to listen to our music, to dress like us, right? Because once we get them to do that, and they say, some of the people before, they said, when the Muslim men stop going to Fajr, then attack. That's what they say. The kuffar know our deen, and they pay attention to us. And they know when we become weak, right? They say when the Muslim men stop going to Fajr, then attack them then. Why? Because they know that they're not waking up for Fajr, it's a problem, you sleep. Right? Attack them then. They become weak. Their iman is weak. Because the only thing that keeps us, the reality, the only thing that keeps us from coming out of our homes to pray Fajr in the masjid is low iman. Unless you work at night, of course. It's low iman. The iman has went down and it's not allowing you to wake up and come to Fajr in the masjid. And the kuffar, they say, we got them now. Neither one of us. So if a person loses all of this and becomes a kafir, Allah says all of his deeds will be wiped out in the dunya and the akhirah. وَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. And these will be the people who will stay in the fire. هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. They'll stay in there forever. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا وَجَاهَدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يَرْجُونَ رَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And those who believe. Now Allah is describing, after he describes these type of people, he reminds us of the real believers. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who believe, and they make hijrah, they abandon the lands of shirk and go to the lands of the Muslims. That's what hijrah means in the Sharia. انتقال من بلد الشرك إلى البلد الإسلام والتوحيد. That a person leaves the lands of kufr and shirk and goes to the lands of Islam. People like to skip over these ayat and not talk about it for real. But we have to talk about that. Inna ladina amanu, this is how Allah describes the believers. Because the believer doesn't want to be around the people of shirk. He doesn't want to be around people that are disobeying Allah constantly. Even though, of course, we know the lands of the Muslims are not perfect. But at least we get to hear the adhan called 5 times a day. At least the salat is being called to. The Eid, we see the Muslims out in happiness, right? At least you go to the right land of the Muslims, you won't see a lady without hijab. Right? Not here where you hear the church bells and you see everyone is naked. You hear music, subhanAllah. Who wants to be in a place like this? Is like crazy. So Allah speaks about the believers. Inna alladhina amanu walladhina amanu walladhina hajaru wa jahadu fi sabilillah. These those who believe and they migrate, they make hijrah, and they fight in the way of Allah. Ulaika yarjuna rahmatullah. They're the true ones who are hoping for the mercy of Allah. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. And Allah is the one who forgives always and all merciful. Don't worry, we started late. Keep going, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala says also, يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر قل فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما ويسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو كذلك يبين الله لكم الآيات لعلكم تتفكرون. Allah says they ask you about gambling and intoxicants. Gambling and intoxicants, which in reality are some of the mothers of most crimes. And today we see that. People become drunk or become intoxicated and they commit murder, they rape, commit zina, they steal, they act like fools. We see them. It's art. They walk up and down the street. So, oh, he's drunk, he's this, he's that, he's high. That's what it means, right? People become high and they act like fools. So this ayah will reveal that Umar ibn al-Khattab and some other companions, they came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, give us a ruling about gambling and intoxicants. Tell us something about it. So the Prophet ﷺ waited and his ayah came down. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They ask you about intoxicants and gambling. قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. Say inside of them or in those both, there's a big sin. And as well, there's a benefit for people. You know, people make money off of gambling, right? They make quick money that doesn't take any hard work sometimes. And as well, people, they get some enjoyment rather than laugh from intoxicants. So there's some benefit for people. But the sin inside of them is greater than their benefit. So we learn in these last few ayahs, we learn a great principle. That there's some things that might be bad, right? But there's some things that are greater, so they become haram, right? And there's some things that, yes, it might not be good, but the benefit outweighs it, right? So we learn in Islam has came to do what? As Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he said, it's come to maximize the benefit. You might not always be able to do a beneficial thing without any harm, but we always want to get the biggest benefit. And it came to minimize the harm. You might not always be able to remove all the harm, but you want to get rid of as much of it as possible. That's a way to always think about something. I might not be able to do all the good. There might be a little bit of harm in the good that I'm doing. But if what I'm doing has more benefit than harm, then I want to be on that way. And if there might be some harm, there might be some good in it, but there's too much harm, then I don't want nothing to do with that. So we have to weigh it on that scale. So then they continue, they say, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلِ الْعَفُوِ. And then they ask you, what should we spend? قُلِ الْعَفُوِ. And this doesn't mean what should we spend on. It means what from our wealth should we use as wealth to spend. So Allah said, قُلِ الْعَفُوِ. Spend from what? The excess, the extra money that you have. Don't spend from what you need, right? Your rent is due, and then you give $300 to somebody, and then now you have to ask somebody for money. No, that's not what Allah is telling us to do. Give from the excess money. The money that you've had in your bed for a year, that's been in your shoe, that's been in your savings account, your college account, the money that's in the back of the car. That's not sure you can give that money, no problem. There's enough money in the world to go around in reality. It's just that people are hoarding it. They don't give from their father, they don't give from nothing. They just, oh, it's mine. But from that excess money, the extra money, Allah says, give from that. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Just like that, Allah explains the ayat to you, His signs to you, so that you might think about it, ponder it. Think about it. Don't just let it go by you. When Allah's signs come to you, think about that. Ponder it. Think about how can I apply that in my life. What should I be doing more of, or what should I be doing less of? It's a fight. You notice that Allah always calls out to our intellects, that we're told in Islam to be thinkers, not to be blind followers or dummies. There's no benefit, there's no reward in being a dummy. So Islam encourages us to be literate, to be knowledgeable, to be thinkers. The Muslims should be the most progressive thinkers for things, right? Not progressive in regards to their deen. The deen we stay, but progressive in regards to knowledge, of science, of how things work, how to progress life. We shouldn't be the ones that people look and say they're backwards, they don't know nothing. When in reality, the world used to look to the lands of the Muslim to get their information. Now, we become stagnant. We become where the people, the Muslims, are always calling out to the kuffar to help. Allah says, فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْيَتَامَى, and they ask you about the orphans. قُلْ إِصْلَاحٌ لَهُمْ خَيْرٌ, to do that which is good for them is good. قُلْ إِصْلَاحٌ لَهُمْ خَيْرٌ. Because they asked about the orphan, they said, subhanAllah, if you deal with an orphan, there's always some way that you might mess up. Some type of harm. Maybe if you have them with you, you might use some of their money in the wrong way. But then if you leave them alone, then they don't have nobody to take care of them. So what should we do? So Allah says, "Kul islahu lahum khayr," to mix with them or to do that which is good for them or better or rectify their situation. That's better for them. When tukhalituhum fa ikhwanukum, and if their wealth becomes mixed with yours, then they're your brothers. Don't cheat them, right? Don't take from their wealth and become oppressive. You know that sometimes an orphan, his parents died and leave a lot of wealth to them. Some people are rich kids. You know, right? This rich kid. And that person gets to become the caretaker of that orphan. Now they become rich. Now, before they were driving a Honda, now they have Lamborghini. No, you're not supposed to do like that to the wealth of the orphan. You use what's necessary to take care of them. You don't become rich. It's not, oh, I'm rich now. I got an orphan child that I used to have. No. They're your brothers. Don't cheat them. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ الْمُفْسِدَ مِنَ الْمُصْلِحِ. Allah knows the one who corrupts from the one who is rectifying the situation. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَأَعْنَتَكُمْ, and if Allah wished, He could have put you in difficulties. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Indeed, Allah is wise and mighty. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ. Allah goes again. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ. It's a beautiful ayah for us, especially some of the young men who sometimes they're impressed by these kafir women who walk around naked, right? They're impressed by them. It's reality. They look and say, oh man, I want that kafir girl. She doesn't know Allah. She doesn't know His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She doesn't know anything about Iman. She has no belief. Maybe, hiya kada wa kada. You know what I'm, right? She might be doing all types of foul and foolish things, but the person's heart is impressed by this khabitha. So Allah says, listen, don't marry the mushrika, the woman who commits shirk. And of course, this ayah is makhsusa, is made specific that Allah allowed us, or allowed the men to marry from amongst the mushrikat, to marry the Christian woman or the Jewish woman, right? And even still that, it's not recommended, it's not the go-to thing. It's not what you should be looking for. Especially there's conditions tied to that. So Allah says in general, and this pay attention, it says in general, don't marry the one who commits shirk until they believe, right? There's something important to learn from here. That for the one who commits shirk, if they make mistakes, right? If they commit bad deeds, if they are foolish acting or promiscuous, they don't have no way to make tawbah. The only tawbah that they can make is to become Muslim. If they don't become Muslim and they acting in a fahish way, that stays with them until they don't have no way to repair that unless they make tawbah. So Allah says, don't marry them. And Allah shows so much more why it's so important not to marry this girl who doesn't even want to make istinja. He says, وَلَأَمَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكَةٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ. Allah says, a believing slave, right? A believing slave is better for you to marry than a mushrik woman, even though that mushrik woman might impress you. You might be amazed with her. You might be impressed with her. You might think she's beautiful. You might think she has some wealth. Allah says that poor believing slave that might not be as beautiful, doesn't have any wealth, is better for you than that kafir woman. Don't do it. It's going to kill you in reality. Then Allah says, وَلَا تُنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. The beautiful thing of the Quran, we learn a rule here. Allah says, وَلَا تُنْكِحُوا. What does this mean? Allah says, and do not marry off your women. Tunkihu, Arabic means don't perform a marriage. Talking to the men, right? A man is not going to marry a mushrikeen. So what are you talking about? Don't marry your women folk off. Don't marry the ladies that are under your responsibility. Don't marry them off to a mushrik man. We know this is haram. But we learn something here too, that a woman can never marry herself off. A woman can never, ever, ever marry herself off. She's only allowed to marry, what? By the permission of her guardians. If her guardians do not approve, then she stays and remains patient. She remains patient. And the guardians are the men. The men should be involved in the women choosing who they want to choose. And that's another start of rujula, right? If you don't have, the men have to have rujula, enough that the women trust the men. Also. They say, my brother's a joke. He might pick the worst person for me. Person doesn't even pray, my brother brought him to me, right? So the men have to be responsible enough to be able to be counted on by the woman and say, I trust my father, brother, uncle, nephew to pick a right person for me. I trust their opinion. I know they have my best interests at heart. And I know they want me to get married. They not just want me to stay home. They want me to get married. They're not just blocking me from getting married, but they're also not going to marry me off to a bum. Right? But the woman doesn't marry herself off. She doesn't have that ability in Islam. But even greater than that, the man should not allow his child, his daughter, his sister to marry a mushrik. A person who commits shirk, who doesn't know Allah, doesn't know his messenger, right? Doesn't worship Allah and his messenger. ولا تنكروا المشركين حتى يؤمنوا ولا عبد مؤمن خير من مشرك ولو أعجبكم. There's another beautiful rule that comes from the Muslim man. A believing slave, he doesn't even have any money. He can't pay 20,000 in mahr, right? It's better for you to marry your sister, daughter to him, right? Than to marry them to a mushrikeen, to one of the mushrikeen. So you find a believer that believes in Allah and his messenger and wants to marry your daughter, sister, whatever. It's better that you marry them to him than that crazy person that has $20,000 to give us a marriage, but he's going to abuse her. He's going to beat her. He's going to cheat on her. Right? Don't be foolish and don't chase the dunya. Even though that kafir, mushrik, might please you. They have wealth. They have some money, and you want to get with the guy that has the money, so you say, oh no, marry her, or whatever. Don't sell your children. Don't sell your daughters. They're more precious than that. They're going to be sold for a few dollars that you spend in a couple of weeks. أُولَٰئِكَ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ. And the reason behind it great is that they call to the fire. They're not trying to remind them of Allah and His Messenger. وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ وَيُبَيِّنُ آيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. And Allah invites the people to Jannah, into His forgiveness by His mercy, by His permission. وَيُبَيِّنُ بِآيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. And He clarifies His signs to the people so that they might remember. Again. And Allah says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ قُلْ هُوَ أَذًى فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. Allah then says, they ask you about the hayd. Say, it's an annoyance. فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. Akramakallah, don't be intimate with the women during the time that they're on their hayd. ولا تقربوهن حتى يطهرن. And don't come close to them until they become clean from it. فإذا تطهرن فأتوهن من حيث أمركم الله. And when they become clean from it, then enjoy them as Allah has allowed for you to do. Inna Allah yuhibbul tawwabin wa yuhibbul mutatahhirin. Indeed, Allah loves the ones who are constantly repenting and the ones who are constantly trying to purify themselves. Allah says, Nisa'ukum harthun lakum fa'tu harthakum anna shi'tum. The women are your place of trying to make children. So go to the place that you try to make children with however you might desire. وَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, and remember the things and send forth good for yourselves. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ مُلَاقُوهُ, and fear Allah and know that you're going to meet Him. وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِأَيْمَانِكُمْ أَن تَبَرُّوا وَتَتَّقُوا وَتُصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Allah then says, don't make your oaths, your swearing, that, oh, I swore I'm going to do this or do that. Don't make the things that you swear to be a block or be a impediment for you doing good, for you spending in sadaqah, or you trying to make islah between people. Don't try to swear and then later on say, oh, I swore that I'm not going to do that. Don't make this a reason for you not to do good. Allah knows that Allah is Sami'un Alim. Allah is the one who hears everything and is the all-knowing. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما كسبت قلوبكم والله غفور حليم. And don't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold you to account for the things you slipped up and said in your oath. So you didn't really mean that. But rather Allah is going to hold you to account for the things that what? That your hearts earn. The things that your hearts intended. So again, we have to pay attention. This reminds us about the importance of niyyah. That what we intend is what Allah is going to hold us into accountable. You can say with your mouth whatever you want. Allah knows what's in your heart. Wallahu ghafurun halim. And Allah is the one who forgives and halim, forbearing. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إن الله غفور.
ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم وكثير منهم فاسقون.